It was a very groovy movie, you see. I remember saying to Rufus Sewell, I said, actually, truthfully, it really doesn't matter, does it, whether it's a box office success, because we're going to get paid as actors anyway. Sorry, Alex, but this is true. We're going to get paid as actors anyway, and isn't it nice to be part of something which is groovy? And I remember he did agree with me on that particular issue.
Welcome, folks, to another episode of Fluffenbusters. As ever, I'm Mr. D, joined by Mr. White. However, we're not alone on this darkest of evenings. We are joined by, potentially the man who gives the Fluffenhammer its intellectual veneer, Mr. George Daniel Lea. Hello, George. How are you doing?
Hi, guys. How you doing? And veneer is correct. Yeah, it's all a complete sham. I give the impression, the surface of being intelligent and erudite, and it's absolutely not true.
It's a little touch of luxury.
You've made a reference. I've gone, I know that. Where did I know it from? Find it. Find it. Find it.
Yeah, that's all I am. I'm just a big sack of references. There really is nothing else. You see, that's why I come off as slightly more erudite. It's because because I reference much smarter people than myself.
Yeah, I mean, all my references are pop culture, really. So,
those too. Don't get me wrong. Chock full of those as well.
For this recording, we've managed to find a sensible piece of cheese to lure George in, and we are tackling a bit of a sleeper classic from 1998, Dark City.
Wow.
The film that started off a year that ended really with The Matrix film-wise. Very interesting thematically.
Yeah, there was something in the air. There was something going on during that period, the late 90s. The late 90s. Not to get too self-promotional about it, but if you've seen or read any of my contributions to the films DVDs, the In the Mouth of Madness one, the John Carpenter film, that's another film from this era, and thematically there's so much overlap. You wouldn't think so if you just take them on aesthetic levels, but my God, there is so much about these films that they are getting at similar concerns, similar sociocultural concerns from different perspectives, using slightly different genres, not entirely different, by the way. Those concerns about where we are as not only as societies but as a species. What are we? What are we doing out here on this rock? What a lot of philosophers at the time were calling the death of history, the end of history, where all ideologies, all the grand projects of society and philosophy and religion and so on had failed, had effectively failed, and left us in the state where we were just consumers. We were just creators and consumers.
And we had that pre-millennial angst building up. It was a heavy old time.
Of course.
It's really weird to try and explain it to younger folk.
Well, to people who weren't alive back then, of which there are probably quite a few listening to this, which is quite scary, isn't it?
It really is. In the year 2026, it's like, oh no.
Oh my God. So 1998, I was 14. So the perfect age to be watching this kind of material, because obviously being a teenager, a young teenager at that, you are going through that on a personal level, right? You're trying to work out what your identity is, what your place is, how you define. And this material, of course, this kind of thing, the Dark City, the Matrix, In the Mouth of Madness, 12 Monkeys, all this stuff that's all exploring the same basic concerns. It speaks to you. It speaks to you on such a profound level.
It really does. Right. Now, should we start the film rolling now, or Mr. White, did you have anything you wanted to...
If you think I had trouble finding images to go along to the intros when Gruffy was talking, can you just imagine what I have to go through now?
Well, I mean, at least there's variety.
I'm going to just put brackets, George is now talking. Please just listen. But no, I did want to say something very, very quickly. So for those listening or watching us on YouTube, you'll know that our channel normally has a background that looks like a small, dark, dishevelled theatre. Now, although that is not AI generated, it was created using a program that matches a few images together. And although it's an old program, before this AI malarkey started flying around, the fact was I was never particularly comfortable with it. So I decided to reach out to an artist, somebody I know. This person is called Hysterical Panic, hysterical.panic on Instagram, and he is an urban explorer.
Oh, wow.
Now, Michael has taken fantastic photos over the years. They are beautifully emotive. I implore you to check him out. But he took some pictures of Proctor's Palace Theatre, which is an old double-decker in Newark, New Jersey, and I've always adored them. And one of them was this beautiful shot of all of the seating, decayed, going to ruin. It was almost as if Nurgle was holding a TED Talk. It was beautiful. And so I reached out to him and said, would he mind if we used this photo for our show? You know, I told him the reach. I offered obviously to pay because as an artist, you should reward other artists. But
Absolutely.
him looking at our channels, seeing how small we were, and also seeing that we were doing it for the love of doing it and that we wanted something honest. So we will hopefully be using that graphic in this show. If that is the case, I implore you to go to the show notes where I will put a link to his Instagram.
Brilliance. Absolute brilliance.
Okay, on that note, let's get the film rolling. For folks at home, we are watching the director's cut of Dark
Oh,
City.
yeah. Only way to watch it, by the way, guys.
Yep. We are starting from the 000 mark, so no need to find a particular spot on the logo. We'll just
Before
go with...
the New Line logo.
That's it.
Yep.
That's it. Got to get the new line in there. It's so evocative, right?
It's a classic logo, really, isn't it? But here we go. And a 1, and a 2, and a... Boop. There we go.
Excellent. There we are. Of course, now what people associate with New Line is obviously The Lord of the Rings, which is a little bit later, a little bit further on from this film.
Anytime I see the logo fall in, my mind immediately thinks, why is Kate Blanchett not talking?
Yes. Now this is interesting. Just the firmament, the void, nothing, and everything, forever and ever and ever. I mean, this is really clever, actually, because the film is effectively giving its own game away with visuals. Yeah. It's telling you what's going on.
Oh, yeah, it's really quite good at that, because it's telling you right from the start. If you're paying attention, you can spot it, but I don't think anyone really gets it straight away.
It's really clever. Outside of context, it's just mysterious, isn't it, and evocative. But once you understand, once you know what the narrative is, this is quite brilliant. And there it is. There's the Dark City, right?
Yeah. And I have to say, this bit of casting, Kiefer Sutherland as the Doctor.
Yeah.
Because at this point, for people who want, if prior to this, Kiefer was most well known for playing heartthrobs and bad boys. So Lost Boys, Young Guns,
yes, of course.
Stand By Me, that sort of thing. This was kind of the first role a lot of people had seen him in where he was playing, not to his age, but a character who was older.
Because
we don't actually have an idea how old Dr. Schraber is. He's a very ambiguous character in that school because of how the Dark City works.
Right, it's quite deliberate. Yeah, it's quite deliberate. I mean, that's something that you see with a lot of the characters. Obviously, there's uncertainty about their identities, which obviously feeds into the themes of the entire film. Again, it's giving the game away. The spirals, the clocks, etc. It's telling you through visuals. It's kind of, I mean, in a way, it's kind of the anti-Netflix film. You know how these days, with streaming services, they're deliberately making material that you can get up and go and, like, I don't know, make a coffee while you're listening to it. This film, and media from this era in general, you can't do that. You need to actually look. You need a pendulum, obviously. Pendulum clock imagery is all over this goddamn film.
But also, as well, the Kiefer, when he received the script, actually thought it had been sent to him in error, and it was a script for his father because of the style. But he had been playing all sorts of, you know, as Dee said, he'd been playing quite a wide range of roles, trying to find something to focus himself. And you'll find that with a lot of the cast here, they are in part of their acting journey. And in some cases, they're a year, 2 year, 3 years, or in the case of our lead actor here, they are maybe 15 years away from the role that will define them. And yet that role will be something quite interesting and unique. And you mentioned as well, George, the pendulum, that light swinging backwards and forwards, it disorientates us, the audience, as well as the character, almost from the get-go. I should say as well, we are talking, folks, about the director's cut. Obviously, the cinematic cut had a voiceover that literally gave the game away, that explained everything to the audience.
It literally told you what was happening.
Yeah, so it's kind of, with this, we have the luxury of a bit of ambiguity at the beginning, unless you know what you're looking for.
Yeah, this is the way the film was intended. Essentially, this is the way the film was meant to be conveyed. You know that the voiceover was a studio insert, or they were told to do it. You know, audiences are too stupid. You need to explain what's going on. But it's interesting, you were talking about the actors in this being several roles or several years away from those parts that would define who they are. They're kind of they're all searching for, ironically, an identity, right? So there's a meta element going on there, because that's exactly what these characters are doing.
Yeah.
Oh, I could do half an hour on Jennifer Connelly and her experience in Hollywood, her treatment in Hollywood, and the transitional period of the next 2 years that would be so important for her. But there's, again, that it ties into this, as you said as well, George. There's so much kind of around this film. This film was not a huge success. It literally made 200,000 more box office than its budget, and yet it has this growing aura as time moves on, because the messages are very, very relevant today, but also the stylistic way in this has been portrayed, and the uniqueness of the vision, which is a very 90s thing, and I think it's something that was given a lot more care than films are today. It really stands alone as a unique piece of cinema.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it is entirely its own thing. That's one of the great strengths of this film, and it helps because, of course, the environment, the setting, is so defined and so controlled within the mythology. They can get away with things. That's why it's so stylized. I mean, to me, it not only recalls the detective noir films, which it's obviously evoking, not only in terms of its architecture, its styles, the lighting, but also like the cinematography is very noir as well. The camera movements, the framing is very noir. Even though it's narratively a detective noir film, you know, there's a murder, there's a guy who wakes up in a hotel room, doesn't know who he is. That is such an almost tropey noir setup. But then it goes on to become something else. It goes on to... Well, and the interesting thing is, it's not something that you won't find in the films that it's referencing. All of these existential anxieties occur in films like The Maltese Falcon, Double Indemnity, and so on and so forth. The thing that this film does is that it takes the subtext and it just makes it text. It throws it right in your face. These are the existential anxieties. These traditions, these film traditions we're referencing in the cultures, the eras of their production. And they're the same that we're experiencing now in the dying days of the 1990s, as we're approaching the new millennium, as everything is kind of faltering around us. Systems are breaking down. You know, there's mass disenchantment with political movements and political processes. Nobody really knows who they are anymore or where they fit in.
If you take away these bad guys and replace them with the TV crew, if you take away the search for the human soul and replace it with the search for a human experience, you have the Truman Show.
But exactly this. These entities. One of the great tricks that the film performs is that it never tells you what they are. It implies what they are. It kind of suggests that they're aliens, right? That there's maybe some extra dimensional entity. But that's not thematically the case. They are searching for what they call the human soul, right? And that's a euphemism. That's not meant to be taken literally. When they say the human soul, what are they actually looking for? They're looking for identity. Yeah. They're looking for some state of identity, because they are all identical. They're all identical. They operate with reference to a hive mind, right? Which is kind of where late 1990s capitalism was leading us, right? Where we're all the same. Again, it's that death of history thing, where we don't, all of the classic prescribed identities, the great narratives of our cultures were gone. They'd failed in the face of the great engine of neoliberalism and capitalism, and left us wanting. They'd left us empty in the same way as these creatures. So the funny thing about these entities is that although they are ostensibly alien, and inhuman, they're actually one of the most human elements of the entire film, because they're manifestations of that yearning. They are, you could even read the film in a very literal sense, that they aren't aliens. They're actually almost, or more like demons, or more like fairies or spirits, in the sense that they're expressing something that the human beings are experiencing.
They're also, they feel to me as well very much like, we have the current issues with loneliness and anti-socialism. Not because of lockdown, but because our world has become so fractured and shattered and insular. And if you think of those creatures as the people that work an office job with a group of people, go home, don't socialize, and are petrified about going online or socializing or even going out in public, they could be those people. And so you have these villains and Nosferatu-looking villains that are coded to look exactly like the bad guy. But at the same time, there is a massive sense of pity that you feel if you focus on their emotions. And I realize, D, you're not going to get a word in edgeways if George and I keep going.
It's fine. I'm loving this, because this is all great stuff. Great analysis of just for all the subjects, and kind of make me a bit depressed because I'm remembering now late 90s.
But it is that film, right? It is that film. I mean, one of the things I do love about this film is that it doesn't indulge in any kind of delusion of hope per se. Even despite the ending, there is this. The questions are still there. The questions that the film raises, just by the mere existence of the Dark City and humanity within it, are still there. The existential quandaries don't go away at the end of this. It's very brave. I think in that regard, it's kind of braver than The Matrix, And again, not to dunk on The Matrix, I know that inevitably, this film is always compared to The Matrix, because they're similar in many, many ways. They're as we've already discussed, they're exploring very similar themes in kind of broadly similar ways. But what I love about this film, I do find this film more enduring thematically than The Matrix, simply because The Matrix makes the grand mistake of providing absolutism. So in The Matrix, there is the simulated reality and there's the absolute reality. That's established quite firmly, certainly in the first film. And that's a mistake. That's a huge thematic error. Because, of course, the moment you raise the idea of a simulated reality, then the notion of reality itself necessarily breaks down. How do you determine what's simulated and what isn't after that? How do you know that the absolute reality that you emerge into if you get out of the simulation isn't either an extension of that original simulation or another level or another simulation? There's no way of doing it. This film retains its ambiguity. That's something and on so many levels as well. Do you ever really find out who Murdoch is? Not really. No. Do you ever find out who anyone is after you find out what the creatures are doing, where they are mixing and matching different experiences and memories and implanting them into different human beings to create new identities or new delusions of identity? Do you ever find out who anyone really is in this film?
Not really.
No,
you don't even find out if anyone's actually... I'm trying to think how to phrase this. You don't even find out if anyone's actually aging.
Right.
This could be a completely frozen environment that's just... Because they say
recycling endlessly.
They reset things every midnight.
Yeah.
But then... technically in this world, that's literally every 12 hours. It's just
part of the grand,
Yeah.
Part of the grand irony of the Dark City is an experiment, right? And actually, this is something the film is aware of. It's not a mistake, because Murdoch says this to the aliens at the end. He says, you were looking in the wrong place. You were looking for the human soul. You were looking in the wrong place. And he's absolutely right. He's absolutely right. The Dark City is redundant. all the aliens had to do was sit back and just watch human beings operating in their natural environment if they wanted to understand what we are and what is driving us. Because then they would have understood that the same existential anxieties occur and recur throughout, and that they are universal. They span all periods of history, all cultures, all creeds. They are the great unifying factors. That core existential anxiety is always there. It's as fundamental as like the erotic impulse or the thanatic impulse, and it's everywhere. But the funny thing is, we only ever, as human beings, we only ever explore them in virtual spaces through poetry, through art, through film, through fiction. We very rarely allow ourselves to have the conversation about them because the places that they lead us to are actually quite dark. Necessarily, we have to, it becomes Lovecraftian ultimately. We have to face that there maybe aren't any answers to this. The notion of who we are and what we are, it's the wrong question to ask. We don't really know, and it doesn't necessarily matter no matter how much time we waste on it. And this film is so brilliant at that. It is so brilliant at saying, actually, you can't reduce us to these things. Like the aliens reduce us to just bottles of influence. That's it. We're just bottles of different experiences. And they think that by getting the right combination, getting the right pattern of influences and experiences and memories, somehow they'll find some great revelation that will answer their own existential quandaries. And as Murdoch says, it won't. It just won't. They're as lost as any of us. In fact, they, as I said before, they kind of manifest that core confusion. They're made by it, so they'll never solve it, because it's their essence. It's why, the Richard O'Brien one, who basically becomes a kind of parody of Murdoch because he injects his memories. It's why it's so antithetical to him. It's why it ultimately poisons him. It's because that's what they are. They are that confusion made manifest.
The questions of the film, especially when you've watched it and then you step back, you realise this inspector, who, by the way, was the original focus of the script, he was the original hero.
That makes sense.
Then it changed to him being an investigator. But you then realise that yesterday in this world, the inspector could have been a completely different person.
Yep.
So we when we're watching the film, we look at this inspector who feels like an established character with history, and he's been doing and yet everyone in this world can be changed overnight on a whim. And the weirdest thing is that when you see them being changed, there is a slight duty of care in the way that they do this. They don't throw people around, they just change the situation. I mean, I'm fascinated by the idea that also that these creatures are populating dead bodies.
Yeah.
Yeah, now that's interesting.
And so, and whether maybe that when people die, are they all individuals that died in the beginning? Or is there a question of a cyclical nature where they allow people to lead out their lives, at least their natural aging lives in this world, and then they take over the bodies as a host when they pass on?
Or, I mean, there's even a real dystopian implication to that. Are these all the human beings that are left?
Yeah, this is all we've got.
Did they actually? Because I mean, one of the things, I can't remember which character it is. I think it's the Doctor. He says at one point, "I remember darkness, and then I was here. They took us." Could it be that there isn't anything else left? Because, of course, I mean, if you look at it thematically, that makes a hell of a lot of sense. If indeed they have plucked humanity from the end of history, from the end of everything, that makes a hell of a lot of sense. It could mean that there is no humanity outside of this. It could mean that this is it now.
This is all that's left. It's like a small pool slowly getting stagnant.
I was just going to say that there is this thing about the entities, the creatures, that suggests that they're almost atemporal, that they're almost timeless. That this space, of course, is itself timeless. The Dark City, one of them even says that. There's a reason why the city, the state, doesn't accord to any particular time frame. It's completely nocturnal, for one thing. There's no diurnal cycle as such. But there's also no history here. It's actually a cinematic universe. It's referencing noir settings. It's very much like stylized films like The Crow or Dick Tracy, or like its influences, the detective noir films, Double Indemnity, The Maltese Falcon, etc., etc. So the creatures themselves may be from beyond time. They may be from outside of time. They may even be, and thematically, again, this makes a hell of a lot of sense. They may be us. They are what happens to us when all of our contexts are done away with, as was happening to us in the 1990s, right? With our histories kind of dissolving around us and general public understanding of history and of what went before also dissolving.
It's like our future selves stealing the past to try and find out where our souls went.
Which, given that they inhabit the bodies of the dead, kind of makes sense.
Right. We have just seen on screen Melissa George.
Oh, yes.
Melissa George was, like many Australian actors, had came to fame through one of the soap operas. In her case, it was Home and Away.
Was it Home and Away?
Yes. Now, due to the broadcast lag between creation, broadcast in America, then broadcast in the UK, it was only about 18 months since she left Home and Away until this was shown. Now, she played one of the most likable characters in Home and Away. Really nice character with a nice on-screen hubby, everything. Very wholesome, very lovely. I had a massive crush on her. So I then go and see this film, not aware that she's in it. I see her and I am overjoyed. I am genuinely overjoyed. I'm like, wow, she made it. Wow, she made it. 2 minutes later, she's taking her clothes off. And I had this really odd, fascination, but also feel profoundly embarrassed because, again, I liked her character.
Right.
In Home and Away. Not the actress, I don't know who she is. But so I see her here. So you've got this, at this very moment in the cinema, watching this film, in the back of my head, I've got this titillation of, I've just seen this person. That then gets ripped apart in her character's denouement in the cruelest way possible. And so for this film, because of two actors that, again, I have an on-screen relationship with, let's just say. Her and the person who plays Wachowski, who you'll see briefly later on as well. I just always remember the horror of her scene because they gave the audience enough to piece together what was going to happen to her as soon as her next scene starts.
Absolutely.
So, I've always thought about, it's always been just a thing that's stuck in the back of my throat. I could never quite clear out.
That's
the
really
horror of
interesting.
seeing a beautiful person, you're pleased for them, and then suddenly it's all twisted. And of course, it's still just a character in a film. But even then, and when I saw this film, by the way, I was in first year of film school. I went with 20, 30 other film school people to see this at the cinema. And of course, we were all agog at this because cinematography-wise, I could spend 5 hours talking about, it was basically a whole new realm of cinematography that was coming through. Darius Khondji with Delicatessen, City of the Lost Children. Bill Pope with The Matrix, and Darius Wolski, who shot this, then Prometheus. He also did Pirates of the Caribbean. So, I mean, these guys are big heavyweights, but it's just coming into their own. And these stylistic choices make for these beautiful and mesmerizing films, which, because then styles changed and digital came in, they never were quite able to replicate this.
No.
So even when you had the likes of Prometheus, and Prometheus was so visually distinct at the time, it was because it was a throwback to stuff like this that Darius had shot earlier.
Yeah, contextually, it's something people just don't understand about this film because ostensibly there is a tendency to take it as because it uses primarily practical effects, right, and physical effects and whatnot. There is a tendency to take it as somewhat cruder than say its contemporaries or things that came only a year later, and that's a real shame because it's just not the case. It's actually a work of absolute craft, this film.
And funnily enough, like The Matrix, they both took about 5 years to develop.
I can imagine.
They were long gestating films. However, both of them had defined what they wanted to be very, very early on. So if anyone thinks, that they clearly copied off each other, no, they didn't.
No,
they found interesting and unique journeys to become what they became, but they are like siblings who respect each other. They actually share some physical elements which people overlook, but at the same time, they are both telling their own story.
Yeah, it's common DNA, isn't it? That's what it is. It's a case of almost like convergent evolution in narrative form. As we said, there was stuff in the water, there was stuff in the air at this point, that even like mainstream cinema was expressing these concerns. I mean, it's almost unthinkable these days. Not to get too old man about it, but it's almost unthinkable for mainstream cinema to be so keyed in to what, and to be so brave with it, to throw these really big, almost like Baudrillardian existential questions at the audience. Part of the reason The Matrix was more successful than this film, like on a popular level, and certainly on a financial level, is because it refines those Baudrillardian questions, the existential questions, and it makes them a bit more palatable to a mainstream audience who maybe hadn't encountered them before. Whereas this just goes full bore. What I love, one of the things I admire about this film is that it doesn't care if its audience gets it or not.
Yeah.
It just it doesn't even like overtly ask the questions, it implies them, and it expects you to engage on a level whereby you understand.
Yeah, I mean, The Matrix, to my mind, it always succeeded better than this purely because, honestly, The Matrix, it's the action movie.
Yeah.
It's got all its undertones, but it's also a shockingly good. Well, for when it came out, it was a bit of a breath of fresh air for the action genre. So
Well, absolutely. I mean, it refreshed. It's one of those films that changed the way people made and perceived cinema.
Yeah, and not just bullet time, but with everything else for it.
Well, everything else as well. I mean, and not to. I don't want to rag on the Matrix because it did elevate the conversation. It did. It demonstrated that even like big action films with their set pieces and their hyper stylization could also be quite smart and profound. They could ask these questions. They could at least pose them.
Absolutely.
It's just that I think this film does it better. I just think this film does it better.
I think you're right. Dark City is a bit more of a pure expression of its concepts. Matrix understands, but it's trying to wrap things up. It's doing more things. It is a love letter also to Volkowski's love of Asian cinema.
Yes, and anime and various things. Yeah,
and you can see out of who they recruited for the stunt work and stuff. Whereas this is very much almost pure. This is millennial existential dread, post-noir, with a big old dollop of weird ass. I'd almost say almost X-Men stuff in the background in its DNA in places.
Yeah.
There is that anime feel. I mean, there's a clear and also since the film's been out, acknowledged nod that a big chunk of the effects at the end are a straight rip-off of Akira. They literally wanted to add these in, and I love that films of this time as well, you were not only were the directors referencing all those 80s films, but they were going international. They were referencing more different styles. I mean, I can't underestimate as well I can't understate the impact that Darius Khondji's Delicatessen had on contrast in films. And this was when all types of cinematographers were using different techniques to give extra latitude, so you could have dim films. It wasn't just light and dark. There were shades in between. Yeah. And that's when, as well, fluorescent tubes came in. And I know it sounds odd, but it's almost like if you look at Prometheus wouldn't have been able to be made without the later development of LED walls and LED lighting for this beautifully soft thing. And this Delicatessen, City of the Lost Children, stuff like this is the cinematography at the time pushing boundaries.
Oh my God. I mean, it's hard again, it makes us sound like old men, which we are, but it's hard to explain, isn't it, to people who were not around at the time, just how profound these films were on that level, on the purely technical level, how they changed everything. I mean, in the aftermath of these films, everyone was doing it, right? Everyone.
For a little moment, we had a couple of years, but the cruelty of it all was, although we talk about The Matrix, and it was a breath of fresh air, it was a big breath of fresh air because the first Star Wars film came out within the same 12 months, because famously, The Matrix beat it to all of the special effects awards at that year's Oscars. But the thing was that within that Star Wars film, and again, I went to see that with a bunch of filmmakers from the film school, they had the first scene in a major Hollywood film that was shot on digital. It was just one scene in the entire film. They tried to hide it so no one would notice it. As soon as it came on, I had the satisfaction of seeing all the other camera people in my year literally stand up, look at the projection booth and go, what the fuck is this
going on, right?
because we could just see all the contrast disappear. And the fact is now that with digital, you're trying to get that contrast back. But with film, you always had it. You were just trying to expand the latitude. So, unfortunately, that's why it would take a monumental effort to make a film like this nowadays, because at the moment, nobody has the skill to dial it down that effectively.
I was just going to say, given the palettes it is playing with and its use of chiaroscuro, light and shadow, they set themselves up for a fall, didn't they? They deliberately made this hard for themselves.
Wolski always he lights for an area in which the actors then work in, and keeps his lighting sources to a minimum. So you get these beautiful tobacco colors. I mean, he's a big fan of tobacco colors, and the palette is obviously quite restricted, but at the same time, it still has depth. It's beautiful, and moments like this where you see the blue of the pool, it's beautifully. It's lovely because it does look like his one space, his one little bit of peace, his one oasis of calm and freedom. And he just, look at him, he looks petrified.
It's shocking as well, isn't it? Because you haven't seen this yet in the film. It's actually shocking. And of course, thematically, it ties into everything that's going to happen later. I mean, not to get too mythological about it, but water is obviously really significant in this film. And when you tie it back to the atemporal nature of the Dark City and the fact that you have a kind of an almost divine cyclical rebirth happening at the end, it transgresses beyond the mundane ideologies that you might assume that it's actually talking about. It's not just political, it's not just cultural, it's mythological, right? It's like that sea that occurs at the end, that it's significant that Murdoch wants to return to a beach, and that he keeps thinking about a beach. First of all, it's evolutionary, right? He's kind of returning to the very beginning of humanity. But also, it's densely mythological. It's the Sea of Tiamat, right? It's the broiling chaos from which everything arose, from which creation arose. And I love the end of the film. What are the implications of that? He's effectively God at that point, isn't he?
He's a god that is acting on his emotions. Which means that the future could be as dark as anything that's happened in the past.
Right. It's not, it's all beautiful and it's framed in a very sort of redemptive and positive light, but the implications are actually really dark. Given the nature of humanity, the confusions, the unpredictability of our natures, what could he potentially create? What reality could he potentially create? Something much darker and much more twisted than the Dark City itself, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's funny, we talked about the 40K films with, a couple of months back when we had Event Horizon, but there's elements of this, like the lost colony that then goes back to Earth to probably find it's even worse. If these are the types of creatures that infect it, they could go back and they could finally reach a home and need to find it even worse. But this could be a 40K story. I know it sounds odd. I'm going to very quickly touch on a couple of other things because I need to get some fun facts out of the way. So this is Colin Friels. Friels was the other actor I was over the moon to see. Colin has starred in a film, a series called For the Terminal Term of His Natural Life, which was a drama series in Australia that was shown on the BBC in 1985. I watched it when I was a kid. It had such an effect on me that when I saw him in this, I almost cheered. And it got terrible reviews at the time. For some reason, I was a kid. It played to me. I loved it. So it was fantastic. Also, though, we talked briefly about Richard O'Brien. Richard O'Brien, the part was written for him.
Right. Okay.
And so it wasn't just like a mistake that he was in here. And also, for those who don't know, because there will be people who don't, Richard O'Brien was the guy behind Rocky Horror. He was in Rocky Horror. And I know it sounds odd, but a lot of people won't know that. But the big thing is, for UK audiences, he had done a show called The Crystal Maze. And so at the time, seeing him in this was another skew. It's like another little twist. It was like, he does look a certain way. I'm sorry. Those of us who are bald, we know how beautiful we are. But we know that some people might see us as a little bit threatening. In this, you're seeing somebody who you love as a show host, as a guide, as a guy who plays the harmonica. And yet he is vicious and evil, and it works perfectly. But it's just that little twist for the audience.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the fact that they wrote Mr. Hand for him makes so much sense when you then look at the rest of the strangers. Because it's like, they are all aping the style of Richard O'Brien quite intensely, obviously. And it's just so effective because I don't want to make it sound like I'm having a dig at him, because I'm not, because I think Richard O'Brien is a wonderful human being who we're all the better for to have existed at the same time with. But man, there's something really weird about his features. It's just
his physicality, right? He casting him as something that is tangential to human or not entirely human really works. It really works.
Absolutely. Oh, by the way, if you want a little challenge, so Kiefer's assistant's going to come up here. He was going to star in a New Line film in a couple of years, a couple of New Line films, and would achieve worldwide recognition. This guy coming up, do you know who he is?
Gentleman here. I can't know.
That's not Viggo, is it?
It's who?
I thought for a second there it might have been Viggo Mortensen, just looking at his jawline.
Oh, you're in the right ballpark.
In the right ballpark. It's not Orlando Bloom.
Keep going.
Elijah?
It is David Wenham.
Oh.
It is Faramir.
Oh my God. Oh.
Now you say it. I just saw the shot as the vial spun around and you saw his face a bit clearer. It's like, yeah. And it makes sense because they shot this film in Australia, so that's why so many of the supporting roles are Aussie actors. But that's actually really interesting because
it really is.
David Wenham's another actor who really should have had a much larger career internationally than he has, even though he has been quite successful in what he does.
Yeah, he's very good. He's very good. I loved him as Faramir.
I thought he was wonderful in Van Helsing. As much as that film gets rep, he's just a delight in that film.
I love this scene, by the way. I absolutely love this scene because you get the twitch behind the curtain here. And it could, I mean, you could take, it's very early as well, right? It's very early in the film and you could take it as a narrative mistake, especially given the noir structure that it's set up where you would, in a classic noir film, you wouldn't get that twitch behind the curtain until much later. But it really isn't because, of course, what it's actually doing is saying, the noir stuff is like a projection on a curtain. This is the reality. This is the real stuff that's happening. And it's so brilliant because it demonstrates that this is not a clear-cut case of evil invading aliens enslaving humanity. This is something much more profound, much deeper, and it connects you to them. It connects you to them on an emotional level. You understand what they're doing, and you kind of understand why they're doing it as well.
Yeah, because they're not trying to be intentionally cruel.
No.
In any way, they're trying to do this experiment, but they're trying to be clinical and detached, but also not to do anything. I mean, they could have. We've seen variants on this in other properties.
Oh, yeah, in loads of films, like loads of, loads of science fiction stories, right, do this. It's essentially Invasion of the Body Snatchers. It's a little bit of, it's Philip K. Dick existential stuff. That's identity crises. It's that kind of thing. Yeah.
And we've seen it where it's been handled, where the entities that are doing it are much more careless. Is probably
and simplistic, right? They're much more simplistic. They are evil. They're the bad guys, right? That's just not the case here. One of the unspoken elements of these creatures that I get is this incredible pain, this yearning. They are so lost, and it feels almost like they're so desperate. They're so utterly desperate that they've thrown in everything into this because this is their last chance, right? To find whatever redemption they're looking for. This is it. One of the unspoken implications, again, is that they're maybe at the end of everything. Maybe it's the heat death of reality, right? Maybe they're at the end of the universe and they're looking for something, just something to latch onto.
This is the last candle and it's flickering.
Yeah.
And if you think about this as well, and it's a played for, I wouldn't say laughs, but the two people that go face down into the soup, they don't die.
No.
Think about that. They're in there for a while. They have designed an entire society that can shut down at midnight, including cars.
Yeah, people driving, trains, etc.
That means that they keep those people safe.
Yes.
And it is amazing that you consider, because if that happened for 5 seconds here, half the world would be in flames.
Yeah.
But here they've designed a society that can shut down so they can take this duty of care and well, not duty of care, but maybe keep the controlled experiment a controlled experiment. Yeah. And it's just, you do think that there's, why didn't they just try communication?
Yes.
Why didn't they just try that extra level? It's so frustrating.
Just watch humanity.
I mean, it adds to the air of desperation to them as well.
Yeah, it really does. It really does. You get the impression that this is it. There is no other choice, right? They don't have any other choice in the matter. I mean, the two who go down face first in the soup, they're really interesting. It's another thing this film does absolutely beautifully, which it adds in another layer, which is class consciousness, right? We get that lovely vignette where you know that they're poor, they're working class, right? But from the conversations they have, from the apartment that they're in, from the food that they're eating, the clothes they're wearing, they're working class. Once the city has been reformed, their class is arbitrarily transformed. They are shifted into upper class. They become aristocrats, effectively. And it demonstrates, just through visuals, you don't ever really get this expounded upon. It's exploring another facet or another factor that these entities think feeds into identity. And one other thing the film does absolutely beautifully is that it kind of says at the end, yes, it's significant, but it's not everything. It's not the be-all and end-all. It's the great fault of the Dark City as an experiment, They're constantly reshaping the environment around us and our external factors. But what the film says, and this is in line with a lot of psychological thinking, by the way, that's not where identity comes from in its entirety. It's much more complex than that. As Murdoch says, they're looking in the wrong place.
Yeah.
They're looking in the wrong place in their desperation. They're looking in the wrong place, and they're playing this game which is so sophisticated. They're performing this experiment which is so sophisticated, and yet it's misconstrued. At the level of base assumption, it's misconstrued.
It was flawed before they even started.
From assumptions up, they fundamentally, and this is their great tragedy, right? In many respects, they're the most tragic entities in the entire film. That's their great tragedy. They misunderstand even what they need and what they're looking for to such a great extent that they've given their lot to the Dark City, and it's impotent. They're never going to get what they want from it, ever.
And the city itself is worn and cracked, and it feels like it's been photocopied too many times.
Too many times, right? It's worn, right? It's worn down. Yeah, again, it's another example of how this film, and again, a lot of cinema from the era, again, I don't want to come off as too old man about it, but a lot of cinema from the era really understands cinema as a visual medium, right? That it's not just exposition, it's not just characters talking to one another about the plot or about the mythology. Again, thank you Netflix, by the way, in 2026. It's a visual medium. So every element, every little factor feeds into the ethos, it feeds into the themes, and even the back mythology of what's actually happening.
I mean, I will say there is an element as well when we talk about finance. There is a reason why this got made, and that reason is The Crow. You know, with The Crow, as soon as The Crow came out, because of everything that went on with that, and if you're listening to this and you don't know what The Crow is, please look it up on Wikipedia, because that's a whole story in itself. We'll probably come back to that in the future. But after that, like, Proyas asked somebody literally as soon as that film came out to start designing this world. They were working on it back then, and of course he had free reign to do almost whatever he wanted, which is why he was able to make a film that was so unique. You know, nowadays this would be in the realm of almost a Francis Ford Coppola. You know, that would be that level of indulgence for a director to get to make this sort of film, unless the budget was severely constricted.
And
this at the time was still an impressively financed film.
I mean, you can tell. I mean, for the era, I mean, clearly, it's just stunning. The production on a purely aesthetic level, this film is insane. It's absolutely insane. It knows itself so well, and it's got such a pure vision, and it just bleeds off of the screen. I mean, this director's cut is it's not massively long, but it's a reasonably long film. But my God, are you ever bored? Does it ever drag? No. Not ever. It's so intense. All of the character interactions are so goddamn heightened and intense, again, in the nature of noir cinema, that you can't help but look at them. And here's the stuff coming through.
It's also, as well, it's so reliant on its small cast of core characters. I mean, Kiefer is really putting in... I mean, he was probably the most well-known of the actors at the time. Probably through a lot of people, because they give him this almost disfigurement. I mean, it's almost, you know, like Frankenstein's assistant, the sort of
like
master.
Igor,
It feels like a kind of version of Igor, even though his character is based on... apparently someone that inspired a book on psychology that is apparently as important as Freud. I mean, I'm not even going to get into that. I don't have George's intellect for discussing this, but look it up, folks. It is incredibly deep. But just the way that they anchor the film, and although our hero is heroic at points, Kiefer is not in the slightest, and no one else is. You don't really have anyone to root for. You're just trying to survive the film.
You're trying to figure it out, aren't you? That's what the characters are doing. And of course, it's very difficult to get someone to anchor onto, because they are, by their very nature, unanchored. None of these characters, they're all very broad archetypes that you would find in any detective noir film, in a couple of science fiction films, and in quite a lot of horror films as well. But they deliberately break those archetypes. In fact, one of the meta readings of this is that you've got fictional characters who are straining against their fictional archetypes, their genre archetypes.
It reminds me of actually Stranger Than Fiction, and any story where you have a fictional character that suddenly pops into the real world. Funnily enough, aping something that I think Adam and Dee were talking about with Last Action Hero. Which, funnily enough, treads not too dissimilar ground to some elements of this.
It's not like thematic. I know it's a weird thing to say for, like, you know, a film that is, you know, essentially a parody of Arnold Schwarzenegger action films. But it does. It does tread the same, I mean, only in a very shallow way. You know, this is an ocean, that is a puddle, but it goes there. It does have those existential quandaries.
I'm now going to edit that audio, take away his disclaimers, and just basically present that as a full-throated view by George. That the two films are exactly the same. There we go. Very quickly, I've got to say this. So, Jennifer Connelly in Labyrinth, most of us know her. Even then, had a very full figure. Was, if you look at her filmography and you look at her Wikipedia, after that she went into a lot of roles where she was basically exploited. The Sydney Sweeney of her day. It's almost shameless. Even the reviews that they talk about her work, the reviews talk about her body. It was, I mean, back then it honestly, it actually quite shocks you because this was hidden. It wasn't like she was a big star. She was just being used in a certain role. This was a period of about 2 years. After that, she did an arty film that was very, very explicit, but was explicit clearly on her terms, and she worked with an arty director that she really trusted.
Yeah.
Then she went from there to Requiem, which was also explicit, but again, even artier. And of course, during that film, like in real life, she got into sports, she slimmed down, she became very active, she does marathons, all of that. Her figure changed, she grew up, etc., etc. Now, the reason I say that is because she also did a lot, she changed her whole career, she did A Beautiful Mind, and almost since then, she's almost solely done prestige films, you know, but if you go online and look at any pictures of her before or after this period of time, you will get people berating her, furious that she changed her figure. It is one of those things that reminds you that actresses are judged still on their figure more than their talent.
Yeah,
it's weird. It was in researching this that I thought, let me look this up. Let me see what the deal was with this. And yet, there's genuine hate whenever, like, pictures of her in Top Gun. Oh, why did she change her body? And it's like, it was shocking. So at the time, this was probably one of the first films that allowed her to just act. If anything, the explicit stuff was handled by somebody else. But it was lovely to see this is the start of her journey towards being the powerhouse of an actress that she is today.
Yeah. And she is very good. I mean, Labyrinth is, wow. And she's very young in that, isn't she? She is very goddamn young. I think she was
only, 15, 16?
Oh, Jesus, really? Wow.
Yeah.
Possibly even a bit younger. She might have been 14, in fairness.
My God.
Which
that's insane.
Is a bit odd when you look at as well the types of scenarios and also the dresses and the fashions and the things that she was put into. Unfortunately, again, the Sydney Sweeney thing, we bring it up, but if you have a certain body type, Hollywood wants to push you a certain way. Yeah. Nowadays, if this had happened and Labyrinth had come out now, within 5 years, Connolly would be doing what Sweeney is doing and jumping into being a producer and gaining that element of power before Hollywood completely took over.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're now back to this weird thing of the Richard O'Brien is desperately trying to find out what the human experience is. However, this is the human experience of somebody that was about to be programmed as a serial killer.
Right.
Yeah,
and that's the cruelty of all of this, is that he doesn't get the right injection. He gets the villain injection. And I don't think anyone even realizes that it's happened.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. And it kind of, I know what you were saying, George, about how the fact that they very much come across as a hive mind entity of strangers. But they're this weird hive mind that's also they're still individuals. They're not a shared consciousness. They're kind of they're the same people, and they have a way of interacting, but they're all still personalities, which is
interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It's kind of, I mean, it does tie into something we were talking about earlier, where they are actually closer to the humanity that they preconceive of themselves as so distant from than anyone understands, anyone allows themselves to see. And of course, it's manifested in Richard O'Brien's character, who gets both. He becomes this bizarre melange of all things, and of course, it destroys him because it's synthetic.
Yeah, and it's really funny, like you say, they're much closer to humanity than they think they are.
Oh yeah. Well,
they just can't see it.
They can't see it. It's really fascinating. That, as I said earlier, I read them as being manifestations of that real core existential angst that we all have. That yearning which is so soul deep for some definition, for some poetry, for some sense of identity, which is so overwhelming. It's as important to us as our thanatic drive, our death drive and our fear of death, and our erotic drive, our need for love and acceptance and community and whatnot. I'd say it's even more profound. Personally, I think it's even more profound. It's unspoken for the most part, but I think that need to have something to latch onto that gives us meaning is it's the experiment of our lives, which of course the Dark City is a kind of expression of, almost a microcosm of. And they are it. They are that question made manifest in all of its madness, in all of its its Lovecraftian impotence. Because of course, what Lovecraft would have certainly said in his fiction is that it doesn't matter how you ask that question. It doesn't matter how loud you ask it. It doesn't matter where you go for answers. You'll never get it because it doesn't exist. The universe doesn't care. That's what Lovecraft would have said. And I think it's kind of what this film says too.
The cruelty I mentioned earlier about watching this film, and especially with this character that's portrayed by Melissa George, is that you realise that she was probably, considering as well the way that she meets the protagonist, she was probably due to be a murder victim.
Yes, almost.
Except that the murderer hadn't been programmed then.
Yeah.
And she escapes only for another person who's then programmed with that personality to find her. Mm-hmm. What I wish they'd done, though, is you find out later that these creatures, of course, they are briefly glimpsed, but the human bodies that you see are the bodies of the dead.
Yeah.
And it would have been a horrible but lovely end to her arc if she was to end up as one of them by the end of the film.
One of the entities, yeah, that would be
interesting. Because there are female strangers, or we'll call them strangers, in this film. They're not obviously labelled as Mrs. or anything. It's just a couple of guys.
No, they're just sort of like female coded, aren't they? It's really that's interesting too, right?
And the kid as well. The kid is played by both. It's a male and female twin, so they interchange.
That's great.
Yeah, and although it doesn't have the same kind of focus on that side of things as obviously the Matrix does. It's still a lovely question of are these creatures, do they care for sexuality? Because of course, again, that's tied to love. That's
right.
That's a soul. That's an emotion. That's a feeling. And it's just. Is it the thing that's keeping them back? Are they just all asexual and have they given up hope?
Well, if you read it on a Freudian level, you could certainly define the yearning that they're looking for as a sort of sublimated sexual one. Definitely, that element is there, especially since the murder, all of the victims in this in the detective noir murder scenario are women and are in fact sex workers, right?
Yeah.
That's not arbitrary.
No, it's one of those classic.
If you want to shift from the Jungian to the Freudian, it's definitely there. Again, it's another example of how many layers this film operates. I love this interaction, by the way. I fucking love this interaction because it's so tense. You're expecting him to become antagonistic at this point, aren't you? But he doesn't. He doesn't. No, there's connection here.
I think he's trying.
He has that part of Murdoch that is genuinely in love with his wife.
Yeah.
And he's trying to process it whilst knowing he's not Murdoch. And for us as the audience, we're thinking we've just seen him murder one woman, and it's almost. In some aspects, it's almost a letdown of the drama that he tries nothing. He just talks.
Yeah,
but I think he's satiating himself. I think he satiated the murderous side of himself, and just for a moment, he's focusing on the emotion because to them, that's something new and powerful.
It's something new. Yes, he's exploring it in a very, even though it's it's become part of him. It still isn't, is it? It's still synthetic. He's exploring it in the way, ironically, that an actor would maybe feel out of role. It's not real to him. It's not immediate enough.
Do you think there is a version of this film where he becomes the hero?
Oh, yeah.
Where even after the
yes.
things he does.
I absolutely think so, yeah. Where he almost has the revelation, right? Through his very intimate and potentially suicidal experience of humanity, he comes out the other side.
Nice.
He becomes a new entity, right? It becomes something that's neither human nor a stranger, but its own phenomena, its own creation. Yeah, that could potentially be brilliant. And I have no doubt that somewhere there may be like discarded ideas or notes about that very outcome.
See, this is one of those films where if ever they did put out, a script book, one which has alternate ideas and proper, a really deep analysis of the production of the movie, I would eat that up because.
Oh my God! It would be huge. It would. You can tell just by the nature of the project that there was so much that hit the cutting room floor, or that just didn't transpire because they couldn't do it, they didn't have the budget for it, or it just didn't fit at the time. Oh, by the way, in the previous scene, more water imagery, more fish returning to the primordial sea, of course.
Are you guys aware of the short film?
No.
Okay, so in the last, I think it was maybe 2020 or 2021, Alex Proyas started did a short film because obviously his career, he's done some very heavily studio based stuff and it didn't go down well. He reacted poorly. He's had some tough times. I think it's Gods of Egypt, isn't it? It's about as far away from this as possible. Even though like Rufus is in that, and a couple of the actors in this film return for it, but. Also, as well, he's in Sandman. It's a brief role, but he's beautiful in it, and I love him for that. So, anyway, enough of that. He started doing this short film, and it was meant to be its own thing, and it's kind of a horror thing, and it's not a fantastic script apparently. But as he was going through the process of making it, it slowly got pulled back into this world, and I think he used the same costume designer. So by the end, even he realized it's basically a short spin on Dark City. Okay. So the fact that he's still thinking about it and it's still in the back of his head is incredible. And for those watching, if they were watching the film along with us at home, and you're looking at this guy and going, hang on, I've seen him somewhere before. Where is he? He is at the beginning of The Fifth Element. He is the archaeologist who keeps shouting at his assistant to move the light.
Brilliant.
Light, Aziz, light. But yeah, I love the way though that the beach is your hopes and dreams. The beach is humanity. Your beach is something that you will never get to, but it's also a heaven, and it's almost given to them as the sort of placebo to help them get through their working day. And
it's not something that, obviously, one of the big twists of the film. It's not something that's real. It's not something that exists.
Yeah,
it's something that you have to make. That it's something that you have to create. And again, it's a wider commentary on the nature of identity, right? You're not going to find it. You're not going to get it through an injection. You're not even going to get it by the ways people tend to preconceive they build or determine identity. It's something you've got to construct in the manner of a work of art. And in that regard, it's also artifice, right? There is something about our identities that is performative. That's absolutely true. And actors and writers kind of get this. You kind of understand this on a very visceral level. But you have to, if you want to be to any degree healthy in your sense of self, you need to get over it. That's one of the harsh lessons this film is kind of telling us. You need to just get over that. You are never going to find something satisfactory that derives from prescription. So from the traditions that presume to tell us what our identity is, whether it's politics or whether it's whatever tribe we believe we belong to or whatever, you're never going to get anything satisfactory from that. It's much more fundamental. And it's much more hard work. One of the things the film is actually saying is it doesn't come in a bottle. It's not an easy answer. And that includes the Dark City itself, by the way, as an experiment. You're not going to find it that way.
Oh, no. And in fact, they even constructed, and this will tie into something I'll mention later, but the whole way that this film was constructed was on sets, internal. It was never set anywhere. It was never built.
Right.
It was built to plans, yes, but it was built to not be a city in a city. It was to be everywhere and nowhere.
Yes.
It has corridors that lead to nothing. It has stairs that go nowhere. It has an entire maze-like quality. I mean, we even see in the beginning that the rat in the maze, and essentially they're doing that through their daily routine. It's not a horror; it's just the way it is.
It's the way it is,
and even as well, the way it's underplayed as well. You have the realization of this inspector that there is something going on, and it shakes his worldview. Do you see him react with an outburst? No, it's just a slight change in demeanor, and he gradually figures it out. But even he, with all of the stuff going on, he's still struggling to kind of find his place in his world because everything is kind of so locked against him doing anything different.
Yeah, I love his performance, by the way, and the writing of the character, because it would be very tempting to make him quite antagonistic, wouldn't it? To have him react against the revelations. And okay, he has his moment. They give him the tantrum, they give him the expression, but then he becomes he reverts to a more fundamental nature, of course, despite his programming, despite his conditioning, which is his curiosity and that need to know the truth. I love that.
Yeah, it's the thing that makes him function as a detective. It's what lets him process it and kind of see past all the lies of strangers. It's
I mean, it's dark as well, because it leads him to what is ultimately his death. But even when we see it, you'll see that there's something about the way he dies which is also revelatory, right? The way he kind of puts his head back, he's seeing the expanse of the firmament, the cosmos laid before him. And
he finally gets to see the bigger picture, which ironically nobody else in this film ever gets to do.
Nobody sees it, right? Nobody else sees that but him. And it's a weird kind of reward for him following the thread to its very end. He gets to get out of the maze. He's one of the only characters that does.
Yeah, it's a very good point that he goes out arguably by choice as well.
Yeah, it's a valorous act that he's committing, but also he's literally at the end of his road as well. I mean, there is nowhere else to go, right? Once you've seen that, and once you know, that's it, right? You've seen the very edge of creation at that point.
The only person who knows as much as he does is our hero, and you get the feeling that whatever he does next, he will probably still have to keep a large amount of the population completely oblivious to what's going on to avoid them panicking, but at the same time then try and figure out what he's going to do with this essentially civilization in a bottle.
Yeah, what do you do? I mean, that's another one of the great quandaries of the end, isn't it? Because it doesn't do what the Matrix does. It doesn't present you with a solution as such. And even him, with all of his capacity and power at that point, he doesn't really know what to do either. And I love that.
Yeah.
I love that to bits. It's just, all it's done is elevated the conversation. It hasn't given you an answer. It's just elevated the conversation to another plane. What happens to all of the people who leave the Dark City, who come to the beach, who come to the coast, or who go to whatever other state that he creates for them? Well, really, they're just moving on to another stage of the experiment, aren't they? All the questions, all the confusions, all the problems of identity, etc., are still there. And of course, at that point, all of the memories in the bottles have been destroyed. The whole facility has been destroyed. So what are they at that point? Because they've kind of been reborn into a much more static condition. When they wake up, whoever they are when they wake up is who they are, right?
Well, it's never fully answered. It's like, you know, that technically the bad guys are defeated, but for a start they might still be around.
Yeah.
I don't think all of them die. Also, as well, the machine is still being functional because he's told he can muck around with it.
Yeah.
He can change it, and he does. It's fascinating. Right, very, very quickly.
Yeah.
This was built. This film was made a year before The Matrix.
No.
Look at these rooftops.
Yeah, and
So,
the shot. The lead
right.
shake, yeah.
Now, for those who don't know, this is not like a coincidence. As standard practice, when you finish making a film, you sell on props and sets and bits to other people that need it. It saves money on productions. These are the very rooftops that Trinity runs away from the agent at the beginning of The Matrix. So yes, for all the years that people go,
fantastic.
oh, it's just a rip-off of The Matrix. No, it's not. But they literally, it's not that they share just the same DNA in terms of their influences. They share part of the same skeleton.
They share anatomy,
and I love that.
Yeah. Isn't
I love that.
They probably share some of the same crew, for that matter.
Yeah, they probably do.
Oh no, they absolutely would do. Yeah, absolutely.
That's amazing, isn't it? I love that to bits. So they are very much sibling films.
I like to think that they're complementary, not competitive.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, a really good double-parter would be to watch The Matrix first and then graduate to this film.
Oh, that's a heady old prospect. That I like.
Yeah,
that.
it'd be great fun, wouldn't it?
Especially if you know what, I'd love to have that actually at the cinema on a big screen.
That would be amazing. I would love that. I mean, that's one thing. You know, The Matrix is very good cinematically. If you watch it on a big screen, it is absolutely incredible.
Now, I have a confession. So The Matrix came out right when I was at the end of film school. So I was busy shooting films, so I was busy. But also, as well, as a huge William Gibson fan, a huge fan of the books. So although like the hype for me had been heavy for The Matrix since the start, at the end of the day, I had the chance of going out and seeing it with some friends or spending the evening with the lady that I had just met, who we clearly clicked. Nothing was going to happen. It was like a real before sunrise thing.
Yeah.
You know, it was just, we get to spend an evening just being in each other's company. Nothing even remotely romantic, but it was the chance of an experience. And I decided to choose that instead of The Matrix. And so in terms of The Matrix, I never saw it until it came on DVD. Even though I was like the perfect audience member for that film. I knew my Gibson.
If you know,
I knew my Sterling.
You're in, right? Because I mean, The Matrix really is. It's Neuromancer, isn't it? It's like it's a condensed version of Neuromancer.
Well, it's the way as well. Even Gibson has said this as well. It borrows from the same elements of noir and anything else that he borrowed from.
Yes,
he has never had a problem with it.
No,
he's never had, and he says as well, the whole idea of these types of films is that they take from various sources and then they interpret it. And let's face it, The Matrix has a ream of different influences. From
it's huge.
Buddhism to Jung to you name it. So it makes perfectly sense. However, in this film, Rufus doesn't jump out of this car and really punch Richard O'Brien in the face going, "Take that, you bald idiot," because that would be a release for the audience.
It would.
That is the big difference between The Matrix and this, is that there's never that release. And that is why it would be harder for this film to succeed.
Absolutely, yeah. Also, it's not as morally absolute. You know, the moment that punch lands, you have the good guy and the bad guy and the fight between the good guy and the bad guy. And here... It's just way much more complex than that, isn't it? The conflicts are ideological, where they exist at all.
Absolutely, because there's a whole argument that potentially Murdoch, what he does is he might have been better off just leaving things as they were.
There is that argument here, definitely.
The system, it was static, but it was functional. It's
There's even an argument that maybe the creatures, the strangers, as they went on with the experiments, might have found something, right?
Yeah.
That answered everyone's questions. That aren't, as they went on performing these endless experiments, maybe they'd have refined their parameters. Maybe they would have elevated their assumptions a little bit, and things would have changed. Who knows?
Mm.
The only mitigating factor against them is Ian Richardson. So for those again who don't know, the main bad guy, so the bad guy at the base, the older guy, to UK audiences, he was still very, very much in public awareness because he played the original House of Cards bad guy, which of course Spacey would then take to America. And of course, because of things that then happened, the whole idea of House of Cards of a series has kind of been like pushed to one side, but the original UK version has so much relevance in current politics, it's unreal. It is genuinely crazy. But at one point, his character does say, when he believes that the experiment is over, that there is no use for the subjects anymore. So there is this sort of selfishness that once they get what they want, these are lab rats, just like the beginning. So that's the only thing that makes me view them really as villain.
It's the only beat, isn't it? Because beyond that, maybe that was why that line was inserted, just to give that dynamic, because without it, it's way more ambiguous.
I really like the idea that one of those could turn up to be the hero.
Yeah, I love it.
I wish now that David Wenham's character had turned up at the end.
Or at the very least,
I have found the Earth.
Yeah, or at the very least that there could be confabulation between humanity and these entities, because once again, it's the same confusions. There's way more commonality than not.
Oh yeah, I mean, the idea that they might need to help. The idea of the strangers all basically trying to live normal lives is an interesting idea, because I mean, they don't look out of place in the world. They're pale and bold, but otherwise, in their coats and their hats, they fit in. They could probably
right. They're noir entities.
Yeah. The way they rebuild the city every night, and as we saw when they were changing the family and from their initial origins to a higher status, they do understand how human society functions. They do understand it.
Yeah, intimately. Even though they have this fundamental misunderstanding of like the internals of human identity, they understand us in a very abstract way. In the same way that human beings maybe understand goldfish in a tank, right? Or ants in a colony. But what they don't understand is the experiential. That's what they can never get.
Goldfish at the beginning.
Yes, of course. Throughout.
Who owes his life to a cop who doesn't even quite know why he's saving it, but does.
I love this conversation, by the way. First of all, you've got the visual stuff there. They're having conversations through glass, and you can see his reflection all the time superimposed over her. And they're talking about memory. They're talking about how, what if your memories are not yours, effectively? What would that mean? Everything that's most dear to you, everything that's most traumatic, isn't yours. It belongs to someone else, or it's false, it's fabricated. That's very Philip K. Dick, by the way, that kind of identity crisis. I struggle to think of a story written by the man that doesn't have that identity crisis at its core.
It did seem to be a theme in his work, didn't it?
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
And yet it finds its way into so many things. I was even thinking of like really, really tenuous links like Face Off.
Yeah.
Overblown 99% action and Nicolas Cage gooning to hell, but at the same time, it's all about identity.
It is all about identity. And, of course, letting those actors have a ball playing each other, which they do.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you just accept the fact that John Travolta and Nicolas Cage could be physically similar to each other. Which, whatever drugs they're taking to make that change work, Sign me up, because you can make a fortune off that.
Yeah,
But,
right.
but yeah, that film is one of my personal favourites, is Face Off, because they're
Yeah, it's great.
having a ball.
Here's a nice bait and switch where you think it's the strangers come to Murdoch's cell, and it's not. This is where you know that the detective has kind of allowed himself to turn. He's allowed himself to see.
Yeah. By the way, I've got to thank you guys, because if it wasn't for viewing this film again so many times, I wouldn't have come to the realization that I have cosplay sorted if I ever want to go to a Comic-Con. I'm just gonna find a nice high coat and just go as this. And the thing is, only one person out of every 10,000 will know who I am, but they'll lose their fucking mind.
And they'll be really excited to see you in it as well, because the fan base of this film is, of course, it's small but dedicated. It's very cult, isn't it?
Oh,
indeed.
I'll get Gruffy to cut his hair and be the Kiefer character.
This is interesting as well. The fact that, again, the revelations happen near water. The closer you get to anything approaching the truth, there's always water involved.
Also, could you say that this is creator creation? Because technically, the scientist created his memory, created his world.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
So he's questioning his god.
Yeah.
I mean, Schreiber is a really interesting character, because, like you said earlier on, the vials are all gone, but he's the guy who makes the memories. He knows how the machine works.
Yeah, and he's the one who kind of manufactures the element that brings about a kind of redemption, or at least a change in status for the Dark City, right? So if there is, I mean, he's a very unusual, heroic character.
He is. He's
highly unusual.
He understands his complicity in what's going on completely. And the fact that what he's done with Murdoch, we don't know what the end play would be with Murdoch down the line, because of the power he now has and whatnot. But it's interesting that the Doc took a gamble,
a huge gamble, right? I mean, he can't have known that it would work, for one thing. No. When he actually does, when he gets the injection, which, I mean, that's a really fascinating solution as well. The manufactured past, so that he gets an education and an understanding of how this machine works, as though he's lived this entire life being conditioned to be that. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant, but it could have failed. It could have failed spectacularly, right?
Yeah, I mean, potentially you could have wound up with Murdoch with the original personality, with all this power as well. So a serial killer who
is God. Interesting.
Yeah, there's...
I mean, you could be really unpleasant about it and say, well, that's in keeping with most of the gods in mythology anyway. Which is true.
Welcome to the show, folks.
I mean, we've just seen he is more than willing to use his ability on another human.
Yeah, to inflict pain, right? I mean, okay, they're in desperate stakes at the moment, so it's like, you know, the ends justify the means, I suppose. But even so, especially when you consider that this guy, I mean, Schreiber is intimately connected to. When you see the memories that he's concocted, he becomes a paternal figure to Murdoch. He becomes a mentor and a tutor. He's the one who's guiding him through. My God, Jennifer Connelly is amazing, isn't she? I love her. I love her in everything. I mean, I've loved her since Labyrinth, which is maybe one of the very first live action films I paid attention to as a kid.
I mean, I've never seen her be less than good, if not fantastic in anything.
It's what makes, if you do delve into her films before this time and after this time, it just reads, especially just her wiki page, it reads really odd.
Yeah,
just the way that I'll tell you why as well. So I always remember there was, you know, of course, around the time filmmaking, reading Empire. So Empire had like 3 or 4 different different like interviews.
Mm-hmm.
Always remember they had Tarantino, they had Henry Selick, who had a peach on his head because I think James and the Giant Peach was coming out, and then they had a picture of Connolly, and they had a picture of Connolly, and she was just stood there in a brassiere, side on.
Right.
And it was just like, it was basically, this is Jennifer Connelly, look at her tits.
Yeah.
And she was doing some film where they used heavy promotional footage of her on a bucking bronco.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people were like, look, what the sod is going on?
What is
and
yeah.
And I just at the time was thinking, well, this is no way to. And again, if you like George, like with yourself, if you see her first in Labyrinth, you see her as an innocent girl.
Yeah.
And so when you see her later, unfortunately, you struggle to remove the character from the actor.
Mm-hmm.
So you see her still as that innocent girl. So there's a part of me that views her character here as the Labyrinth girl grown up and something's gone horribly wrong. You know, you always have that there. So then seeing her transformation into Hollywood.
Yeah.
But then also you have Kiefer. Kiefer was 3-4 years away from 24 at this point.
Of course.
You know, you just think literally everything would change for this young man.
Yeah.
Like so quickly. Sewell was obviously take a couple of decades before Man in the High Castle, but it would happen. And yeah, for so many of these people, it's just like you just think their careers change. But in this moment, these characters, they all feel constantly in this state of flux.
Yeah, it's a grab bag of potential, isn't it? Stuff that's going to happen that hasn't quite happened yet. I mean, in any just universe, this film would have catapulted them into superstardom because the performances are amazing. It's a very difficult balance to hit because they are playing deliberately exaggerated characters. Like the thing that Kiefer's doing with that slightly breathless thing that he's doing the whole time. It's really hard to make that fly. It's really difficult to make that fly. But when you understand the character and the mythology that he's operating in, it makes total sense.
And he must have relished as well being somebody who was not like the clean-cut hero or the goody-goody or the comedy bad guy or the young guns or the Lost Boys or this is him disfigured as well just to seep into a role. And like several of the other characters here as well, there is no clear-cut ending for him.
No. You never know.
I love that. No, he kind of gets a smile and a walk away, and that's about it. And it's almost like he becomes part of the heroic group.
Yes, absolutely.
But then never gets his like he never walks to the beach.
No, he's coded really.
You never see him in the sunlight. Yeah.
He's coded really weirdly. So initially you could definitely suspect him of being the serial killer if you didn't know any better. You could suspect him of being the serial killer because of the way he's coded, because of the way he's framed in the film, that he's sort of manipulating Murdoch to take the fall for him. That's one reading. And then later on, when you find out that he's working for the strangers, well, he's the traitor, right? He's the one who sold out humanity. And then it complexifies it again, whereby he's working under coercion. He doesn't really have any choice in the matter.
Yeah.
Then he becomes the hero.
That brief snippet we saw of him bloodied and beaten before he injects himself. It's just. It does a good job to recontextualize
the whole character, right?
Yeah.
You see the character in a new vein, a new light. And again, it's that whole thing of the characters representing archetypes that derive from various different types of genre, and then straining against those archetypes. It makes the whole film almost like a commentary upon its own type of film, its own, even though it crosses genres. It's referencing those parameters and then breaking them, deliberately breaking them. And again, that's a very hard thing to do, and do it correctly, do it well. It's very, very hard. I think this film does it spectacularly.
It really does. I'm so glad that people do seem to keep finding it from time to time.
Yes. Oh, it's so lovely. It's so lovely when you encounter someone who's rediscovered this film. Because I know a lot of people who did see it when it initially came out, but they didn't regard it at the time because of lots of different factors. The shadow of the Matrix is the big one, obviously. And then they rediscovered it later. they discovered it like a decade or so later, and they realized that it's a beautiful, beautiful, profound piece of work.
Yeah,
There
I mean,
it is,
I saw it at the cinema, and I bought it on VHS as soon as it was available. It
Mhm.
was.
This, by the way, is where this film kind of gets a little bit out of limits. Sorry, outer limits.
Outer Limits,
Yes.
Yeah. It does feel very, very 50s. And I will say, as they walked towards this scene,
Mhm.
the characters, it got about as noirish and Third Man and weird, and like Nosferatu. You even had some Dutch angles in there.
Yeah.
They really amped it up before you saw this big blue thing. And then, as you say, George, there's this beautiful ending to the character.
I love this. I love it to bits. He comes to the end of the road. He gets the answers that he's looking for.
You get a wonderful moment where he hits the atmospheric field, which is something that gets missed it's a little touch that so much sci-fi misses.
Mhm.
And then you get this reveal, which
And
is
then you
just...
see it. You see the experiment. Wow.
There is only one problem here. That they are not, the city isn't on top 4 elephants. That's on top a turtle.
Yes.
And by the end, with the water around the edge, you are getting close.
That's the shot, isn't it? Where it's a surrender, but it's also it's almost exultant as well.
Yeah, peace.
Love it.
He
Love
cannot
it
be recoded.
He has the solution. He knows what's going on, and he goes looking at the stars.
Yeah. And the film resists the mawkish ending as well. It resists Murdoch kind of drawing him back in and resurrecting him at the end. I love that. I love that to bits.
Yeah, it would have been the easy option to take. This film doesn't take the easy options.
Never, it seems to me. It never takes the easy options, which again is probably why it wasn't as successful. I mean, again, not to be too didactic about it, but mainstream audiences generally are not fond of that. They don't like ambiguity. They don't like unanswered questions. And they tend to react against it, which is a real shame.
Well, the bonus of this at its time was that it would get a second life on home media release.
Yes.
And it would get out there. The challenge nowadays is that home media release is so clouded by streaming, but also as well the way that streaming sort of compartmentalizes its media, so you don't know half the stuff is there. So films of this time did get that chance to shine if they weren't cinematic hits. In fact, a lot of the time you could see a film and go, "Oh, this is going to make a lot of money." When it goes to the next level, when it goes to that home media,
to DVD or whatever.
Nowadays, it's so much harder for those films to find that audience, unless it really does get pushed as a streaming hit.
Unless there's some sort of like viral marketing campaign, or it gets picked up by some like really big YouTuber, right? Interestingly, that did happen a lot around this era, and often around films that are similarly ambiguous. I always think of Fight Club. The adaptation of Fight Club, which again, similar existential quandaries, right? It's exploring pretty much the same things from a very different vein, but pretty much the same issues. And again, that was an utter failure at the cinema because of very poor marketing, and became an absolute hit on DVD later when people discovered it.
I love that Kiefer's sort of...
He's got his little cage. Yeah, he's got
Iron Maiden. It's like a kind of Iron Maiden,
it's like an Iron Maiden,
skeleton. Right? But also, it's sculpted to be like his prisoners.
Yes.
He's like a poor copy of a hybrid almost.
Yeah.
I mean, this whole sequence is probably about as 40K as the film gets. And I should also just make a quick mention. Whoever designed the updated... not Van Sars, the weird, creepy bald dudes in Necromunda. They clearly watched way too much. They watched way too much Dark City.
Very much so.
Can I just say, on behalf of creepy bald men everywhere, I resent that much.
I love, by the way, that the engine, the machine, the existential engine is a clock. It's because what they're drawing on is actually the power of history, right?
Yeah. And that face as well, it is so Prometheus.
Prometheus directly references this, doesn't it? It directly references this. I mean, for all the problems I have with Prometheus. Yeah.
The nicest thing, actually, one of the nicest, I think, areas of praise consistently has been from Nolan. Nolan has always talked about, he's mentioned this time in cinema where people were asking those types of questions.
Yeah.
And of course, Nolan is one of those that's still trying to ask some of those questions, but obviously he has to deal with it being Hollywoodized in its own way.
Yes.
But he's still doing it. But I love the idea of almost learning, implanting memories throughout your history. And he has now become the father, the teacher, the parent, the support. He is as close to him as a father or a brother now, which means going forward, I mean, their relationship, I wish I'd seen more of that at the end of this film. Mm-hmm. But he's not only created the hero of his film, he's created a hero of this film that will back him up no matter what he does.
He's created God as well. I mean, that's very interesting. And again, I mean, one of the questions of this film is about memory, right? And what it means with regards to our identity. And it's ambiguous. It's massively ambiguous about that. On the one hand, yes, these concoctions of memory change our preconceptions of who we are, and yet certainly the core characters, there is an essence of them that transcends the synthetic memories, that allows them to wake up when they're being implanted, or allows them to ask the questions that nobody else is asking. It's really interesting. I mean, and again, there are no answers. There are no clear-cut answers here, which, once again, something that maybe most cinema audiences don't necessarily like. But in that regard, it's much closer to the science fiction stories that it derives a lot of influence from, because most of them are also powerfully ambiguous, and they don't provide answers.
Yeah, they give you the setup and then say, well, what do you think happens next?
Right. What does it mean to you as the reader?
Yeah.
They often ask that, but do you think this character is who they say they are, or who they seem to think they are? Is it just presentation? Are they just saying it and not feeling it? And what is Murdoch? What is Murdoch at this point?
You talked about the audience and obviously having the audience feel good moment, and something that you brought up earlier as well is that the idea of the differences, yes, between Dark City and The Matrix. But if you think about this as well, they used a format that people could understand, that people could relate to, a fist fight in The Matrix, to show dominance between the good guy and the bad guy. Mm-hmm. However, in the real world, or let's talk at the 40K world, the idea of battling with your mind would not be so glamorous. It would be two people looking at each other. It would be a lot of noise and atmospheric damage around them. This is arguably a more realistic fight scene for what The Matrix should have had. But it makes sense that The Matrix went with the more crowd-pleasing version.
Yes.
Because it just, this isn't as fun. And let's face it, it must have been a challenge to film, a challenge to create. It must have cost a fortune. Yeah. But it's not. Is it as satisfying? No, because it's trying to show that the fight is on a deeper level than
it's much more abstract, isn't it? It is a battle between minds, and it's also, I mean, in Murdoch's case, it's a mind that's now profoundly in conflict with itself, which you get reflected in what happens to the machine. Obviously. I love this, by the way. This is fantastic.
This is the very Akira bit of the sort of almost the world birthing a new area. But this is a new area. It's born not of them. It's born of this one person, of this stranger, of this kind of emerging god.
Yes, this new entity that's been
created. But the machine's not hidden anymore. That's the other thing. It's bringing it all into the light, quite literally.
Now, that is very interesting. I mean, is there potential here for other human beings to be able to harness it as well, and thereby to create their own little paradises or their own little Edens? That's a very lovely potential ending, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean,
I
is that
like
something
that
that would come
idea.
across? Would that develop naturally, or would that be something that Schraber then
it sort of like guides them
do
towards it? Yeah, because then it becomes very mythological, doesn't it? Because he literally becomes the Christ figure then, yeah?
Yeah.
which is all imagery. I mean, that is imagery that's tied up here. It's much more overt in the Matrix. It's way more overt in the Matrix, but it is here. He is now effectively like a messiah figure.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's safe to say that John's death is more a death of personality, whereas Neo literally, literally dies.
Yeah, Neo it dies and is resurrected. I mean, with Murdoch, it's a symbolic death more than anything. But he's still sort of, he is effectively crucified on the table.
Yeah.
It's there. It's definitely there, and there's this baptismal as well, which he baptizes the city, and it's Noaric as well. It washes away.
Yeah.
So it's all there. I mean, there is a very religious reading of this where they represent sin, obviously, and this baptism. It's why they can't stand water, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. You know what? I'd actually forgotten how much water plays a factor in dealing with strangers, and then I thought, oh yeah,
it's not overemphasized. It's not. It's really interesting. It's mentioned once or twice that they don't like water. I don't think you ever really find out why until this point that it's actually kind of toxic for them.
I just find it interesting that this film has it in there, and yet it never seems to get brought up as much as it does it for what was it? No. What's the Chalamet movie? The Signal?
Oh, Signs.
Signs. That was it.
Yeah. That is so dumb, isn't it? That is so dumb. So these aliens are allergic to water, so they come to a planet that's like almost entirely made of water. So okay, fine, yeah.
I think it's the difference between an idea that's threaded through and you invite the audience to discover it through the film, and something that mentions it twice, and then at the denouement, like the director and the actor and the stars and everyone else, they put big signs on the screen going, "Look at this prop! Look how smart we are!"
Yeah.
And it's like, that's not what this is meant to be. This is meant to be
subtle. It's not. It's expecting you to pay attention, right? It's expecting you to pay attention and be able to discern what's happening. And again, the water is also thematic as well, as we were talking about. There is the religious element, the baptismal driving out sin, but that's also in and of itself. That's not meant to be taken literally either. That becomes a kind of metaphor and euphemism for the wider sense of redemption, which is existential, right?
Yeah.
I mean that is like the imagery that you find in very ancient, like Gilgamesh, like ancient mythology. That's like early conceptions of how the world was. Before people discovered that the world was round, was a sphere. That's incredible. It's amazing stuff. And the fact that the film includes that imagery, and this film is smart enough, the people who created this film are smart enough to know what that is, to know that it has that resonance.
And talking about the Akira reference again, that shot there I don't know if you guys have read the manga of Akira.
It's bloody huge.
I know, right?
It's huge. It's like 12 volumes, isn't it? Like
6.
Is it 6?
It's 6 volumes, but they're like...
Yeah, they're like each
phone
one
diaries.
of them. Yeah, each one of them is gigantic, isn't it?
But as the story ends, you have Kay and Canada riding off into the sunset, and they have Tokyo kind of rebuilding itself on the sides. It's always ambiguous whether that's actually happening or not.
Yeah.
Or if that's just their imagination as to what's happening. But it's a neat little moment.
I love this as well. Now, because we know what we know, everything that's happening out on screen becomes necessarily symbolic, yeah? So what are these people doing? Something in them is telling them, we're done. We need to leave now. We need to go to Shell Beach, right? We need to get outside of the city. We need to get away from this. Again, it's that whole thing of the film complexifying itself. So they know there is a core of identity to these people where they know what they need to do and what they want and where they need to go, despite all of the synthetic memories and the meddling and whatnot. And that's brilliant. It's spelled out here. I mean, in this confrontation.
It's also the fact that he's created. You can see houses rising there as well. He's looking at the first steps to people living in a better world,
In another world, yeah.
But how do you do that? And the complexities of transferring people around.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it'd be a fascinating. This would be a perfect video game, like a Civilization style video game, where you start at the end of this film. You have finite resources and space and water. How do you make the world better?
Oh my God! Can you imagine an open world game version of this where the city does actually change every 12 hours? Fuck, that would be so good.
Man,
That would be
you know
so
what?
good.
If you want a game that procedurally regenerated the city, that would be.
Oh wow! Can you imagine?
Yeah.
We may not be a million miles away from that technologically.
No, I
you
mean,
know? we may be almost there.
I mean, that's the sort of thing that if you were going to have, an AI element to a game, that's where you'd give it the tools. You'd say, look, this is the style. Every so often, you need to rebuild this city and all the characters in this style. That could be.
Yeah, that could be amazing. I don't think anyone who starts watching this film thinks they're going to get imagery like that at the end.
Yeah,
it's amazing. And look at that, the wash. That's the first time you see sunlight. That's the first time outside of the flashes of memory. That's the first time you see sunlight. How incredible is that? I mean, even without context, just aesthetically, that is incredible, isn't it? It gives you like tingles up the spine, doesn't it? Seeing that.
And
by the way, if you notice the big pipes in the side of the wall there, so Stallone and Rob Schneider are running through that to avoid being incinerated by a flamethrower. But no, it feels like such a release.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, as well, I think Jennifer looks a little different here as well.
Yeah, I
think because of they're showing that she is not a caricature of a singer, and she is now just an individual person in this world.
Yeah, and I love the way she's framed here as well. She's sort of discovering herself, but not in a frantic or desperate way. It's more potent than that, isn't it? It's in a way that speaks of possibility.
And it's interesting. Again, it's interesting because it would have been real easy for them to take the simple route and have her still be the Emma he with the same relationship with him, but
it doesn't.
She's not.
It doesn't.
She is a new personality,
a new entity. Yeah, and I love that. I love that to bits. Again, avoiding the easy answer, right?
And he has, as even with his power, he has no inclination to change her, which is one of those small things that maybe gives you a small gram of hope about the future.
Yeah.
Because he realizes what he can do and what he can't do.
Yeah.
Yeah, he knows he has limits. So
that's my God. Wow. That is a powerful film.
It really is. It's
amazing.
Folks, if you've gotten through this, I'm so happy you've joined us.
Yeah, me too.
And I hope you watched the film before listening to this, because
please do that. Do not.
If your first time was listening to us natter over it, I'm so sorry. But thank you anyway for
apologies.
But no, I have a massive soft spot for Dark City. It's such an. Like I say, the fact it didn't succeed at the box office, it's such a shame.
Yeah,
but
it is.
Well, there's so many things. Remember as well, like again, modern audiences won't know this, but back at that time, you were getting dozens of quality films coming out each month.
Yeah.
Yes, it was the way that people would go and see multiple films a month.
Yeah.
But if you didn't have something that was maybe easy on the eye, or maybe had that sense of overt reward at the end, then it would struggle to find its feet in the cinema. It would be appreciated at home when people had more time to sort of go through it. But one of the things that did play a little part in kind of downplaying it, and I know this sounds odd, is because they used that table shot, him being crucified on the apparatus, as one of the main pieces of the marketing. And the thing was, it looked very, very, and look at the poster, and you'll see I think the main poster is still him in that rig.
Oh no!
But the thing was, a lot of people looked at that and thought, isn't that the thing from the Lawnmower Man?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Lawnmower Man. Yeah.
It had really mixed kind of signals. In fact, I realized that when I was looking at the poster in terms of graphics for this show. It was like the poster looks pretty crap.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't know how to market it.
That's it. It's a case of poor marketing,
and that's the problem.
Right? And it is. And to be fair to them, to be fair to whatever marketing team was involved, it's a hard film to market. How do you describe it to people? For one thing, I mean, like by word of mouth, what do you say? Oh, it's a noir, murder, mystery, existential horror, science fiction film with a lot of metaphysics.
I mean, really, the only way to describe it is it's Dark City.
It's Dark City. It's its own thing. It's idiosyncratic, isn't it? It's a very beautiful experiment in and of itself.
And I must say, whilst we've been chatting, I did a quick search because I was curious how available it is nowadays. It's actually on Arrow Film. On their, they've got a 4K Blu-ray of it. And
it is the director's cut. And being Arrow Film, of course, it's got loads of extras. It's got tons of extras.
But I just posted the cover art for the Blu-ray in the record chat, and it's an interesting piece of artwork. It's probably as good a piece as you could do for Dark City. In all honesty,
I mean, if I were doing it would be the skyline.
Yeah,
it would just be the skyline against stars, and that would be it.
I'm pretty sure there's at least one poster which is Murdoch kind of silhouetted in a shaft of light that's toned very.
That's odd.
Greenish.
Given that it's Dark City, and it's all about the shadows. That.
Well, the city's around him. That's the thing. You can still see the city, and so it's kind of him.
Yeah.
Silhouetted by a shaft of, by almost a street light. I think.
I kind of get that. That kind of works. Yeah, that kind of works. If it's like a street lamp light, that does work.
I'm pretty sure that's the cover they use for the VHS edition at least, but
it's old enough to have a VHS release, isn't it? Yeah, of course it is.
I probably still have it around here somewhere because I've got boxes full of VHSs still. Or did I?
Oh my god! Wow.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you have a bingo card and you're waiting for Big D to talk about something that he's got around here somewhere, congratulations.
Yes, the negative stuff, the negative space hungers. It never stops.
There is a Necron collector who is jealous of the amount of stuff you have lying around.
Before we go on, guys, can I just say thank you for inviting me to that was fantastic. That was so much fun. I'm so glad. I mean, I've never spoken to anyone about this film before beyond casual conversation, so it's been lovely to get to talk about it.
No, thank you for joining us, George. This has been an absolute delight. I've been wanting to get you on to do something with us for a while.
Well, please, whenever, just throw them at me. Throw them at me, guys, and I will happily, I'll dive right in. This is my bread and butter,
Oh, that's ladies and gents, that's the sound of a man who's going to regret saying that.
I think one of the things, though, and this is where when we've been reaching out to people to talk about various films, when we say, and I think I said to you before this as well, George, if you just want to go full bore on this for like 2 hours and you just want to go off on your own subject, you do that.
Yeah.
This is why if we can get a film and match a film to a person, the person is passionate about that film, there will be things, and everyone listening right now, there will be a thing about Back to the Future that you've always wanted to tell people. There is a thing about Batman that you've always wanted to tell people. There is a thing about any film that you've always wanted the chance to tell people. And if we can provide an environment where you can do that, then you can say you can feel heard. And I know that's a very modern thing to say, but there's so many films that people have genuine passions and inspirations for, and they never get a chance to just vent. And it's great.
Have you seen
what
my co-creator Kit Power does with his Talking RoboCop podcast?
I've seen bits of
So
it,
much
and
fun.
I was going to say as well, I have to admit, I spoke to Dee before this, and I went, if George gets Kit involved with this,
Yeah.
we're screwed. We
Oh
might
my
as well
God.
just go, hi guys, we're going to host this, but now we're going to leave, and Kit and George are just going to do that. We'll see you in 2.5 hours. Peace out.
That's how I kind of started interacting with Kit. He invited me on to Talking RoboCop, where we sit down and we watch RoboCop, and he's done it with well over 100 people now.
Oh wow!
Well over 100 people, and it's an amazing idea. It's an amazing
That's
experiment.
such a good idea, just to take one
Isn't it?
film and watch it with different people,
isn't it?
That-
Because you get you
yeah.
understand, you get an understanding of just how media in general works then, and how people's relationships with it work. Because of course, no two of those podcasts are the same. There's profound differences and new ideas and new interpretations cropping up all over the damn place.
I mean, especially a film like RoboCop, because
Right.
that film is
Which is so polysemic, right? Where there's so much like this. I mean, oh my God, polysemic is the word for Dark City. By the way, it is the word, because there's so much you can derive from it.
Oh, absolutely. This film will talk to everyone on some level.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
No two people will have the same opinions on it.
But
Not
once
at all.
again, I mean, like, please just throw me a text or a message whenever you have anything coming up, and I'll if I can do it, I'll do it.
Of course, there is one downside to all of this. You see, I know, because we discussed it with Dee. Dee was going to ask you a question about the Fluffenhammer.
Oh, go on.
And I was going to no. I was going to ask you a question about horror, but I think for the sake of length, especially as we've come to the end of the film, we'll leave it for another time.
No problem.
But this also, as well, this is the beautiful thing. If you can lock in a person to a film that means something to them, then they will take immense joy in talking about it. And I have to admit, as much as you've enjoyed talking about it, George, we've enjoyed hearing you just go off on it. It's been fantastic.
Oh, thank you, guys. No, it's been just the most sincere pleasure.
I mean, part of the reason we do this is that we love the idea of a film commentary. It's one of those things that
I think if you were of a particular age, right? If you were like a teenager or a young man when those DVDs started to hit, like the Lord of the Rings ones, there's something very special.
Please don't mention that. Please don't. I get flashbacks.
Yeah, I know, right? Me too. Me too. When I was a student, should have been studying, should have been writing essays. Nope, watching 100+ hours of making of documentaries about the Lord of the Rings.
Yep. I was at university, got the extended cut of fellowship, and me and my housemate, we mainlined that over the course of a weekend. Everything. We were just
besotted.
More. Give me more.
Absolutely besotted, and still am. Actually, still am.
Now I know this is normally the thing that Dee would say or Gruff would say, but I'd like to put some context for this. So we have not actually touched in this recording on George's influences. We've mentioned very, very briefly, George mentioned at the beginning about some pieces of work, but rather than just say, where can we find you? Would you mind just saying, what media you have out there? What is the basis for it?
Oh, sure.
And not a quick 2-minute summary. Just let us know, because people are going to listen to this and they're going to be like, right, where can I hear more from this guy?
Okay, sure.
So
I have my YouTube channel, Exaggerated Elegy, which is very much, it's conversations very much like this. I mean, we primarily discuss media of various sorts. In fact, there is going to be very, very tomorrow. There's a new H.P. Lovecraft retrospective going up, in which my pal Jack Graham and I were going to be discussing The Thing on the Doorstep, which is Lovecraft's queerest story. Absolutely. I mean, like, the subtext of that one is unreal. It's a case of, how did you not know, Howard? How did you not see what was going on here? So if you like the discussions, you'll find more like this there at Exaggerated Elegy. There are My God, I've done 4 short story collections. I've written 4 short story
Mhm.
collections thus far in my life. Strange Playgrounds, Essential
Mhm.
Atrocities, and the 2 volumes of Born in Blood. Very, very weird, very peculiar. I suppose ostensibly horror stories, but they're a
Yeah.
bit like Dark City. You know, they don't really belong to any particular genre. So if you like that kind of thing, seek them out. Just go and type in my name or those titles on Amazon. You'll find them, or type them into your search engine. You'll find them. There's also a non-fiction series which is over at the gingernutsofhorror.com, My Life in Horror, which I inherited from Kit, funnily enough. If you want to buy the previous, because it's actually published in volumes as well, it's just essays on and articles on significant media that's had a profound influence on our lives, and it's anything and everything. It's books, it's novels, it's films, it's music, it's all sorts of things. And recently been making a foray into bizarrely DVD extras and Blu-ray extras via films. So there is a Hellraiser set, a Blu-ray and UHD set called The Quartet of Torment over at films, and myself and Kit, we are on the Hellbound disc. It was brilliant, actually. They shipped us out to Hereford to a very nice hotel called the Green Dragon, put us up for a night, and then Kit and I we got very drunk the night before, which we shouldn't have done. And then the next morning, a bit bleary, I have to say, they took us to this really wonderful little theatre in Hereford, this little like indie theatre, and they showed us, we got a cinema to ourselves, and we got to see Hellbound, the new cut of it, on the cinema, just me and Kit. And then afterwards,
Wow.
they set us up in this. They did a whole. It was a really brilliant, actually. They set up like a whole set for us, and they filmed us and recorded us talking about experience with the Hellraiser series and with Clive Barker's fiction. And Clive Barker is like the man. He is the reason I do anything, quite frankly. And it was brilliant. It was absolutely amazing. And on the back of that, they also got me to do some extras for the In the Mouth of Madness UHD set as well.
Wow.
Which was brilliant. There's some filmed stuff on the DVD, and there's also a written essay in the little insert booklet as well. Which I mean, that film, I was so pleased to be part of that, because I bloody love that film. One of Carpenter's great underrated films.
Yeah, it came up on one of our watch-alongs, I think, around Christmas time, when we just rolled up a bunch of movies, and
so good.
I hadn't
so
watched it
good.
in a while, so that was fun to have that come up. So
again, it's I know we referenced it in the actual discussion, but it's exploring very similar things. I mean, it is, again, it's another death of history, mid-1990s story.
yeah, and coming from John Carpenter, he's always a really interesting mind to have some come from.
Absolutely. And again, another massively underrated film, by the way. It was at the cinema, then it just went, and it was almost forgotten. Almost forgotten. Never comes up in lists of Carpenter's films, not ever. And yet, it's one of my favorites. I think it's absolutely spectacular. And I think that's it. It for me.
Yes, folks, as you can tell, George is incredibly prolific and very.
I try. I do try.
So, yeah, on that note, we'll start wrapping things up. If you're still with us, thank you so much for joining us. George, this has been an absolute delight. Thank you.
Me too. I mean, again, thank you guys. Thank you for giving me the space and time to ramble on as I do. No,
it's honestly, it's been extremely enjoyable, and we'll definitely do more.
Please, I am absolutely up for that.
Yeah, and if there's ever anything you think of that you'd like to have a natter about,
right. Yeah. Okay.
We're open to suggestions.
Fantastic. Here. I will throw some stuff out there. I will definitely throw some stuff out there.
Excellent.
Good stuff.
Brilliant. Well, thank you, and thank you guys for listening. Yeah.
Indeed, folks. If you're still here, thank you ever so much for listening. I hope you'll join us again for the next time we do this. So, have a good one, folks.
Goodbye.
Bye bye.